pretty cool tonight is I think more than ever we've had like a diversity of like different trades, different people that are all part of your real estate family, like your network, your team, right? Because real estate's a team sport. I think the only person we were missing was somebody from a title company, but we've got lenders, contractors, painters, insurance folks, wholesalers, broking people, everybody, and buyers and sellers and people just working their butt off trying to make their lives better. We got Bobby here tonight to tell us what to be on the lookout for when you are looking for a home and how important inspections are. So as a real estate agent, we love our inspectors, and I just want to say thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Give us some wisdom.
Like all of you guys, we came to this type of group not to be sold a bunch of stuff, but we're here to learn, and we're here to network with other folks so we can grow our investment company and our investment business with our rentals and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna pitch you guys. I'm not a salesman. I've been an inspector for 25 years. I was a home builder before that. I'm going to go into my background a little bit. I'm going to go into the state of the inspection industry, which is a little bit different than a lot of people might realize. And then we'll go over some photos. Everybody wants to see the photos of the things that we see in these things. Everybody wants to see that. So we'll go over that. We'll have a few laughs and we'll have a good time. So that's what I plan on doing. The home inspection business is now, it's a business now. It's no longer a profession. It used to be to where guys that were tradesmen all their lives, they were, general contractors, builders, plumbers, electricians, tradesmen. They would spend their whole career, and at the end of their career, they figure, you know what, I've got 30 years of experience, and I can share that to help people out. That's the way the business used to be. It used to be a profession. Now it's become a business, and I'll explain that. About 6 to 8 years ago, big companies looked at home inspections and said, hey, this real estate stuff, there's a lot of money to be made, and we can really get into this market. So what they did is they got involved with a lot of the local jurisdictions, states like Washington that have licensing. Idaho doesn't have any licensing, but California, a lot of the other states that have licensing and pseudo-licensing. And they got together with them and they set up, if you've ever read your home inspection report, you guys have probably all had a home inspection at some point. If you've ever gone through and read all the crazy stuff at the beginning of that thing, basically, they've worked it out to where the home inspector's not responsible for anything. They're supposed to go through and look at something. If there's a towel in front of something, you're not supposed to look at it. Okay, so if there's a couch in the way, you don't test anything behind that. And that's the way they've designed it, because the way it's set up now, when I got my license over in Washington, they advertise, the company that I got certified with, to get your license, you have to go through these certain companies to get your certifications. They advertise no experience required. We guarantee your license in 3 weeks. You can be a professional home inspector in 3 weeks, no experience required. I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me, because I had always thought that it was like originally it was. You had all that experience you built up and you're gonna help people out with their purchase of their homes. It's not that way anymore. Now the business model is, with home inspections, you don't have to have any experience. You could be selling cars 1 week, go down there, get your license in 3 weeks, do some inspections, start hiring young kids as your inspectors, and saturate the markets with inspectors. And that's what you'll see. If you really look into and find out and do some investigation on the inspectors, even the biggest inspectors up here, the guys doing the lion's share of the work, you'll be surprised at how little experience these guys really have. They're great. I've met a lot of them, and they're great guys, but they're businessmen. They're not professionals as far as when it comes to home inspections. A little bit about my background. I grew up in a trade family. My whole family was into the trades and different trades. I did that I built custom homes for 15 years after college. After that, I worked with my kids. I was starting to coach my kids a lot, so I needed to, building custom homes, as you know, is a full-time job. I mean, if it's 3 in the morning and you got a roof that's open and rain's coming, I mean, it's a non-stop stress. So I figured, you know what? I had a buddy of mine that was coaching with me. He said, I can get you a job with the city as a regular code inspector. And I thought, oh, code inspectors, you know, that's the last thing that I want to do, is because they were always the guys that I had to get past when I was a builder. So went to work for the city, 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock every single day. After that, I had my life. So I was free. I could coach all my kids, and it was great. It was good pay. I worked down in Southern California for the city of Los Angeles as a senior building inspector for 23 years. The last 10 years of that, I was specifically just training inspectors in big high-end homes over in the Hollywood Hills and the Bel Air areas. These are, you know, 15 to 70,000 square foot homes. They're basically commercial properties, but they're still residentials. But it got so intensive that a lot of times I had to bring commercial guys in with me to do these inspections because they're so intensive, the systems that are in there. So I did that, retired from the city a couple years ago, moved up here, living the dream up here. We love it up here. And it's just, we're very happy to be up here. And the reason I got into home inspections, it was a natural progression. I figured I'm getting my pension from the city. This is not my make me or break me career at this point. This is float me until I'm 65 and I can dip into my retirement and stuff like that. But I love doing it. I love meeting the people up here, and I love working with homeowners and helping out homeowners and the realtors that feed us that work. I work with them to protect their clients, and the good realtors, they really do want to protect their clients. I've definitely run into realtors that they don't want that speed bump, and they you know, inspectors are they see them as a nemesis, and it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way, because we are helping you protect those clients. And down the road, when something happens that they didn't catch, or an inspector didn't catch, they don't call the inspector, they call the real estate guy that recommended them. That's the guy you trust that's on the ground, because they trust you for their escrow, for their lenders, for their home inspector, for their tradesmen. They're trusting that realtor for everything, and grantedly, but the thing that is, those realtors need to vet their inspectors, and that's one thing that I can't stress enough. Also, I'll show you some videos of some of the stuff that we've come across, and there's some funny stuff that we just show you guys. It's my grandson. My wife likes to incorporate some family stuff in there. I don't know if you guys can see that back there.
22 and you show this, Taylor, right?
Well, our daughter specifically said, "Oh, you can't use that." Well, we used it.
So it's here.
A lot of things people wouldn't realize. This doesn't seem like a big deal to a lot of people. Your condenser unit on your air conditioner, they have ratings on these things. This is a 30 amp maximum fuse on this thing, so it's what the unit is rated at. The fuses on this unit are at 40 amps. So basically, this unit would burn up in the summer before those fuses would jump in to protect it. Nobody pulls out fuses because they're not trained to. So this is the small type of things that we look at, that you really have to know how a house is built so you can explain it to people whether it's a big deal or not. These are some attic ductwork. Something that just comes undone. You can see it just came undone here. It just happens, and it's in the corner. It's in the corner of the attic. You're never going to go up in the attic or the crawl space. Nobody does, but that's what the home inspectors are for, to go up there and find that little stuff. So it's an easy fix. But if you didn't know about it, it's got a great air-conditioned attic, but the house is suffering. The roofer knows all about these. Okay, it happens all the time, and it's just the sun and the environment. They don't do well with these rubber boots on these roofs. It's an easy fix. They got a really super easy fix now. It's called a perma boot. You familiar? Yeah. It just slides right over the top. It's a very simple fix. But if it doesn't get caught, and you got snow up there and rain up there, this is going straight into the attic. You're going to have mold. You're going to have rot. You're going to have all kinds of issues in there. Insulation problems. A lot of these things that come up. Always fun, especially when he's a contractor. So it's always fun. This looks interesting. This is basically a regular panel. This guy decided he's going to hook up his generator to backfeed the house, which is great. And there's great ways to do that because we have all kinds of outages and stuff like that. I would highly recommend having a battery backup for a generator. You may not be able to see this, but this is fed directly into the panel without a transfer switch. So it'll work great in an emergency when there's no power, but the problem is the guy that's down the road fixing the line, the lineman down there, he's going to get fried. It's a big deal. This backfeeds all the way into the grid without a transfer switch there, so it shuts off so you can't backfeed. So it seems like, I mean, who would know that, you know, but it's not a good deal. Very unsafe. This one is, I love this photo because I can tell you, this was a 12-12 pitch roof. It was out in Wallace, and it was on a hillside. It was 3 stories high, and it was a 12-12 pitch roof. So this was like 60, 70 feet up there. Nobody's laddering up there. You can see the little drone there. That's why I kind of like it, because you can actually see the drone. That's the only way you're going to see this kind of stuff is with a drone. And so a lot of guys use drones, but it's a great tool to get up there and see stuff. We also include drone footage with every single inspection. As far as overhead views from 150 feet, 300 feet, so you can see the neighborhood, the views in all directions, so they can see. It's kind of a neat thing. It's not really super helpful for the house, but it's a kind of a neat thing that we like to include the reports.
Do you have to have a certification or a special license to do drone?
Yeah, drone pilot license.
And most of the inspectors don't have them.
And it's a huge fine if you don't, but a lot of guys will just do it. This is right out here in Sagal. People get real creative.
Is that a shower?
It's a shower head. He had some extra parts and made them work. This one over here, you really can't see this, but this is in a crawl space. It was like a basement, and there's water dripping down. There's a drop of water there. So if you know something about construction, you know there's a lot of ways to prop things up under a house. Okay, there's better ways to do it. Okay, and then there's much worse ways to do it. If you know the way masonry blocks are designed, they're designed structurally only in one direction. Okay, this is not the direction. This house was sagging 6 inches to the back, and this was all over. I had 15 or the whole house was propped up on blocks that were going to fail. I mean, because that's not the way that you can break them just by jumping up and down on a regular block like that.
That was in Clarkford, wasn't it?
No, this one wasn't in Clarkford. This was down in Washington, actually. Some people have lawns. Some people have lawns on their roof. This was 4.5 inches of moss. A little bit of moss is not a big deal, but like you say, with the roofer, the coatings, these guys can coat these things and really make a huge difference on the roofs. I would highly recommend it. This is an interesting one I did for a Keller Williams agent down in Coeur d'Alene. This was over in Rathdrum. This house it was built in 2015 as a new house, a brand new build. It had been sold twice since this year, so it had been sold. It had 2 home inspections in that time. I was the 3rd inspector on the job. Again, it had like an 8-12 pitch on the roof, so it was a difficult climb on the roof. But we got up there. These are capped vent pipes. When you build a custom home, again, the builders will know this. You cap all your plumbing during construction, so no debris gets inside of your plumbing pipes and stuff like that. At the end of construction, when you're done, you got to go up there and take those caps off, or your system won't vent. I asked this homeowner. I said, "Have you noticed any odors or smells over there?" Because he had been there for 2 years. And he says, yeah, whenever people came into town and I was using all the different showers, man, it really stunk like sewage, you know. I'm like, well, there you go. This is just a couple of them. There was 4 or 5 vents up there that they had to remove the cap. But I've seen it on a lot of jobs, a lot of these new builds. It just gets missed. Doesn't mean they're a bad builder. It just means that things get missed. A construction site is like an anthill. Guys are all over each other. You see, cut joists where the HVAC guy comes in there. We used to joke that they'd come in there with a chainsaw just to get stuff out of the way. Beams, posts, whatever. But so you see a lot of stuff, and it doesn't mean they're a bad builder. It means that there was subs that they couldn't have complete quality control. This one was a really nice nest for an animal until winter. You can see that there's all kinds of carcasses in here. I don't know if you can see it back there. This is a furnace with the side off. This one over here, this is a separate picture. This is a guy, he didn't quite make it out.
Us Japanese people know what fried rice is. Those are fried mice.
Fried mice. Here's another example. This one, this was over in Spirit Lake. There's another example of people getting creative with props. You can see the wedges and the notched beams. Floor was level though. They had done a good job wedging it up there, but not very secure. That's not going to last very long. Dryer vents, very common. Nobody cleans them. I really recommend you clean your dryer vents when you get this weekend. Go out there and take a look at it, okay? Fires start, and I've seen under houses just black char where the fires start from that. There's a ton of heat coming out of that dryer, and if this lint backs it up and clogs it, that's a high risk fire area there. Another thing I see in attics a lot of times is the FAU vent stack coming through the attic. During construction, it gets kicked over next to the sheeting. The boot gets moved over and it's right next to the sheeting. That's another place where fires start, right up against that plywood. Easy fix. All you gotta do is cut the plywood right around that area, give yourself a 2-inch clearance, and you're good. Easy fix. Once again, there's a fix for everything on these jobs. It's a matter of knowing what you're getting into on these investments and these new houses and stuff like that you're buying, so you're not getting way over your head on stuff.
So, I'm sorry, is your name Bobby?
Bobby.
Bob. So that one on the right looks like air still gets through. Where do you say, like, this is the point of no return, you've got to clean this out? I mean, that looks like 75% air still gets through. Is that good or not good?
That's a fire hazard.
That's a fire
hazard. It shouldn't get anywhere near that.
Okay.
Because if it's like this on the end, back here, it's jammed. It's jammed and it's trying to get out. And
that stuff just goes up like easy.
Yeah, a lot of survival guys like campers will use lint. It's a great fire starter. It really works really well.
All General has the tools to clean that.
The grandson making an appearance again. We haven't talked about residuals.
We were allowed to use that one.
Okay. Electrical panels. Always interesting stuff. Breakers are designed to be feeding one circuit only. A lot of people, they run out of space for breakers. Instead of installing a sub panel to feed those breakers, they'll just double tap the breakers. So now you're feeding 2 circuits with a 20 amp. So basically those things are loaded. You got 10 amps max you can use on these things. It's going to be tripping and it's problematic. You can see it's pretty common actually. So, but again, it's not that difficult to fix. Some of the stuff we see on roofs, they bring the siding down too close to the roof, and you're seeing a lot of erosion here. Exposed nails, I just put one there. This is on every single house in North Idaho and Washington. Everywhere, exposed nails are everywhere. It just happens. Sometimes guys are lazy, roofers can get lazy and stuff like that, where they're exposed on the ridge caps and stuff like that. It's a simple fix, just to tar that thing up. But if it's installed correctly, you're only going to have, at the very end of your ridge cap, you're only going to have a couple of nails that need to be tarred, but the rest of the roof should all be covered and protected. Like I said, some people get real creative.
It's genius.
Yeah, that's great.
It actually worked. It drained. It has a trap where it's actually, you know, they get creative. This is called an S trap. They were actually approved in the code at one point, but they just don't they don't drain correctly, and they have odor issues because it doesn't drain correctly. So if you see one of these under your sink, it just needs to be a regular trap with an arm here, and it's pretty simple to fix. Does anybody know what that is?
Radiant heat, yeah.
Yes, sir. The homeowner had crawled under there and said, I think I have PEX plumbing in the house. And I said, no, well, it is PEX, but it's a radiant floor. And it's a manifold for a radiant floor system. It's actually, they're amazingly efficient. I mean, as far as heating a house, they really work really well. But it looks like a nest down there. This house was right here in Sandpoint, not far from here. This is my re-inspection. I went out there and I did the whole house. It was an older house, but the people were flipping it. And I went to do the crawl space. I opened it up and it was full of water. So the water was a foot and a half below the floor joist. So it was solid water. As I said, and I got down there and as much as I could, and I took pictures and everything, and I said, this needs to be remediated before we can even do an inspection down there. I don't know what kind of damage in there. It had sitting water for I don't know how long. So they had a company come in and remediate it, and this was the remediation. So the water was gone pretty much, but underneath it, you can see the visqueen here, the radiant or the vapor barrier. As I was crawling through there, this was soaking wet. I mean, all the insulation was saturated and just falling down, just dripping on you. And underneath that vapor barrier was just liquefaction of about 12 inches of mud. There was no way you could remediate it that quickly. It was like 2 or 3 months. So this was the remediated job. This doesn't animate. This is kind of a funny slide. It shows some guy with a little clipboard and he's falling down the roof and rolling by this guy. And this guy's jumping out of the way. It doesn't have much of effect here, but basically you want to look for somebody that has real experience on how to do an inspection and how a house is built so that you can get a good snapshot on what you're getting into on that house. But you also have a liability issue when people that don't know how to walk on a roof or crawl under, you're liable for that inspector. Okay, they get hurt on that job, they fall off that roof and break their leg, your insurance is picking that up, so it's on you. Okay.
Insurance? What?
Can you repeat that? So if you have a property that you're getting inspected, and you don't own the property, but you're wanting to buy it, and an inspector gets hurt.
You're the one that hired them.
So it's your insurance, not their business insurance that covers them?
That's a good, I'm not sure on that. That'd be a question for the insurance guy. I'm not sure.
The liability goes with the home. So if the home is what caused the injury, then the homeowner would have to pay it. Their insurance company would have to pay it. If it was somebody being careless, then believe it or not, you would have insurance, hopefully.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, the home inspectors, we have to have full insurance as well.
Sure. There's almost no situation where the buyer would be responsible as long as his business has insurance and the homeowner has insurance.
Yeah, I was concerned about that. Just the buyer.
And there's minimums for insurance. You can get the very bare minimum. We've got $1 million on all, $2 million on so she loves to overdo it on all that stuff. So
The second million.
she's very popular with insurance folks. So sometimes you meet people, and I've only been up here a couple of years and doing business with a lot of realtors already. Some of them are already really good friends. I've met some really good people. They're in my fantasy football league. We're going out mountain bike and motorcycle riding, and I mean, I'm part of a B&I group down in Post Falls. Troy's down there, and some people have come down there, and it's a great group of people, but it's become a big part of our lives. We just really enjoy the people up here and meeting the people, and I really, truly enjoy helping people out with the purchase of their house. Sometimes it's going to be the largest purchase of a person's lifetime a lot of times. Some young couples, they're doing an FHA loan on this, their very first house. They really don't know what they're doing, okay? To get into that largest purchase of your lifetime and hire somebody with very little experience just seems, you know, for $300 to $400 or $500 just doesn't make sense to me. That's basically, did you guys have any questions at all? Yeah.
Do inspectors ever work with appraisers? As far as like, you know, because sometimes an appraiser guy might say, well, this is a certain dollar fix, and the inspector might go, well, it might be only, you know, I just wonder if that ever happens at all.
Well, when it comes to inspectors and pricing, that's a good question. When I worked for the government for a long time, okay, and there's things that are taboo that you just do not do as a government employee, and one of them is refer people, because as a senior inspector for the city of Los Angeles, if I told you, hey, go use Joe's Electric on your job to fix up this stuff, the city of Los Angeles is referring that person, so they're the ones that get sued, okay? Second of all, I think it's a major conflict of interest. Part of that business model that I really originally talked about, part of that home inspector business model, is you hire inspectors, but you also build up a network of tradesmen that you can refer for all the fixes that you have, all the defects that you find in the house. That is all fine. It makes sense. It kind of makes sense. Well, that's the guy that found all the defects, so he's an expert, and he's referring a good guy to help you out. Problem is, I can crawl into your house right now, and I can come up with all kinds of electrical and plumbing issues in that far back corner that you have no idea. Okay, and guess what? Joe's paying me $75 of referral on every single one of them. I guarantee it. Okay, that's part of the business model. It's a referral. I don't do any referrals. I've got lots of contractors that I work with that I think are great. Realtors, that's their position. They're the ones that you're trusting. They're the ones that should be that referral source, okay? What we provide is a cost estimate, and this is based on zip code specific prices. So basically you can have within 24 hours, 24 to 30 hours, you can have a very accurate price estimate on everything that needs to be repaired in the house. The realtor and you can go through and check the boxes and say, I don't really care about the switch plates, but I care about the plumbing and the roof issues. I want to get a bid on that. It gives you an accurate estimate in a form that you can take and give to that seller and say, this is our ask, okay? The real estate agents love it. I mean, because it makes it, because normally they've got to call a roofer, they got to call an electrician and a plumber, and we all know those people are all 3 weeks out, and you've got 5 days, okay? And they're not doing it for free either. So this gives you a price estimate that you can take and use during that transaction that's really, really helpful for you. Yeah.
My question is regarding mold. I had a client in my office today. He just bought a house, moved in a week ago, and he's switched over to us for insurance, which is great. I was able to see that there had been 3 fairly significant water damage claims. I don't know anything else, but it was about a 1.5 year period. There was $60,000 worth of claims paid out related to water damage. So he says, so I said, you might want to find out what the damage was from the previous owner. All I can tell you is that there were claims. I don't know anything about it. It was with a different insurance company. So and I said, but you want to find out what they did to remediate it, and did they check for mold? Because if there's water damage and it's been sitting there for a little while, there's going to be mold. They may have patched it up and made it look nice, and it's worked, plumbing's back to working and sealed up, but there may be mold. And he said, well, wouldn't the building inspector or the appraiser come? He said, I don't think they can check for visibility. Like if you can see black mold on the wall, you're going to list that. But if you don't see it, you probably don't investigate it. Aren't there
That's right.
mold inspectors specifically?
Well, we do mold testing.
You do mold testing?
Yeah, we do mold testing, which is an airborne testing and swabs and stuff like that. We do mold testing. But the telltale with mold, and I see it a lot of times, you ever see those attics that are all white?
Yeah.
Okay, you think, oh, that's great. They seal it.
All over it or something.
That's mold remediation. And a lot of there's the mold remediation guys up here they do it all the time, and they're really, really good at what they do, most of them. Okay, but a lot of those attics, I'll get up there and it'll be all white, except there's just black mold growing right through it and right on top of it. So a lot of times what happens with mold in the attics anyways, crawl space is different, but with the attics it's usually a ventilation problem. I didn't have it in the slides, but there's like a lot of times people's the bath vents, they'll just take them to the little bird's mouth, the little eave vents, and they'll just try to vent them through there. All that moisture, whenever you take a shower, it goes in there, and there's always mold right around that. We had that same house that was underwater. That one had the hood. Tons of mold down there, but the attic had the hood from the kitchen was going straight into just venting into the attic. Solid black with grease and everything else like that. Solid black mold. The mold, you can tell when it's been remediated. The right way to do remediation is to take the stuff out and repair it, okay? But there's also ways to sand it down, or they sandblast it, okay? And then they kills it after that, and it usually seals it pretty good. But you want to verify if it's white, if it's been painted white up there, it's been remediated. And that's not necessarily a horribly bad thing.
Until you poke it open and break it open again or something.
But if it's all sealed in there, it's going to be inert. Okay, if it's all sealed in there, it's not going to have access to oxygen, and it's going to be inert.
So if you don't see mold, what's your responsibility for finding mold? If it's behind the walls but hasn't penetrated the drywall yet,
there's nothing.
We'll never know, right?
Never know.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, if we do a mold test, an airborne mold test,
Is
but
that an extra charge? Or?
Yeah, but you'd have to suspect something is going on before if they had all kinds of stuff in the attic, you want to have it remediated, and then you have a mold test.
Well, that's why I told him he should find out where the damage was and where was it fixed, and maybe even pay him a few, for peace of mind, because he has little kids, go get a mold inspector to go check it out. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there and could be disturbed. So FYI, I don't know an insurance company in the world that covers mold remediation. So it's on the owner.
Right.
So get it.
And mold is a nasty thing for especially for young kids and people with compromised immune systems and stuff like that. Radon's another one. People radon, it's everywhere. It's not a big deal. We didn't have it down in California. I didn't even know about it. I had to get certified up here. I learned a lot about it. I've done radon inspections. I did on my parents. They live over in Post Falls, up in the golf course up there, and I did their house. And their house was 4 picoliters, which is the max you're allowed. Right, 2 doors down was 15 picoliters. Just 2 doors down. It's pretty wild. It comes in pockets. It's not wide areas or neighborhoods. It's just sometimes it is when you get over into Sagal and stuff like that, and over in Rathdrum. But for the most part, it's just in pockets the way it comes up through the fissures in the ground. And they say 10 picoliters, which is just over 4, so 4 picoliters, is like smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. That's the equivalent. So we did one in Rathdrum, and it was 72. And they had been living there for 2 years.
With the radon, do you pay attention to the time of year?
The what?
Time of year.
Yeah, it does affect it. In the winter, it's different. In the winter, it's going to be different because you're going to have everything's going to be sealed up and tight, and all the windows, plus the atmospheric pressure. But it takes we use. They're $1,000 machines for these radon, okay, and there's really small ones. You can buy really small ones, little kits that cost you, $300 or something like that. They're not very accurate, but a lot of companies will use those to do their testing because they're so much cheaper. But these are 48-hour tests, and it calculates for all that, the pressures and the temperatures, and it calculates all that stuff out and spits it into a report. It's like a full-page report that tells you everything about the radon in the house.
How do you charge by the square foot, and what's kind of a normal house inspection run?
The basic cost is $360. Okay, that's a basic, like a 2,000 square foot home, and then it goes by square footage. Okay, so, and then it goes by age of home. For something that's 150 years old over in Wallace, it's a percentage more expensive. It takes me a lot longer to do those things.
It's kind of a bottom base you have there.
That's the base price. Then your square footage and and we also, since gas prices changed, we have a gas trip charge now too. It's a one way. It's $1 a mile from Coeur d'Alene. So up here it's an extra $30. So
Test water.
Yeah.
You test water.
We have tests that run the very basic tests, the IPA tests, and then there's the full. It's like $300 for. And up here in Sagal, we've had them. They have uranium up here in the water. They've got all kinds of lead. The water's surprisingly for Idaho, I thought it would be pristine water with this aquifer we got and everything. But there's been a lot of stuff in this water coming in from mining and stuff like that, especially over Silver Valley. You've got, stuff. I would recommend getting a water test, not necessarily through us, but getting an extensive water test, and then a filtration system takes care of it. Takes care of 99.9% of all those harmful materials. So for $1,500, you can get a whole house filter system. It's saltless, conditioned soft water for your showers and your laundry and everything. For $1,500, it's really, really worth it, especially if the water's not that great. And it's better than like Brita and stuff like that. They don't do what the whole house filters do. Some more questions? I don't test septic. We do sewer line tests, the laterals to the street. Septic's a different inspector. I just didn't want to get that dirty. Yeah. Sewer lines are bad enough. Yeah. Got to draw the line somewhere.
Well, you have to pump it, don't you, to inspect it?
We always recommend, with the septic system, we always recommend that it be pumped and certified. And whenever you buy a house, you should have it pumped and certified on every house.
So you mentioned the quote system that you have that gives you, within your zip code, price estimates for.
Yeah.
Is that a system you developed, or is that something?
No, this is we're part of a national mastermind group for home inspectors. And it's a national, they're based out of Texas, but they base everything, they have based on zip codes. So it's not, you're not getting the prices for Alabama, because it's irrelevant. For California, the prices are twice as much as they are to repair stuff. So it's based on your area. They actually poll people's contractors specifically locally to find out accurate pricing. It works great. And I mean, I've looked at the bids on there, and it's really pretty tight. So.
It's called Repair Pricer.
Yeah, Repair Pricer. Yeah, we have it all on our web. If you look on our website, all this stuff is on there and more. But so, any more questions? Thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it.